Hi, I'm Connie Sokol, a national speaker, best-selling author, program founder, and mother of 7, and loving it. I'm reaching and teaching 1 million listeners to live a purposeful, organized, and joyful life. You can too, so let's go.
Welcome to another episode on the Purpose Filled Life podcast. My name is Ashley Stratton. I am your guest host for a special series where we are interviewing moms who are pursuing a passion, a goal, or a business, and still trying to put their faith and family first. So we have today with us Lara Cragun, and she is my last guest on this series. So I feel like we are leaving with a grand finale. So I'm super happy to have Lara with us here today. So Lara, why don't you go ahead and tell us about you and your family and any goals you have accomplished in motherhood and the business that you run.
Great. I'm excited to be here. Thank you. I didn't realize I was the finale. Yay.
Yes.
I feel honored. But I'm Lara Cragun, and I am an intuitive eating and body image coach. I'm first and foremost a mother and wife, and my husband works as a firefighter. So we're a busy family, and I have 3 kids, and they're ages 9, 6, and 3. And I also was born and raised in Arizona, and now I live here in Utah, and I've been here ever since. And I started doing coaching a few years ago. I used to be a weight loss coach, but through my story, I've come to find that this is where I want to be with intuitive eating and body image. And I hope to, it's kind of just what I tell people with what I do. It really is helping women ditch diets, find body acceptance and food freedom. And I do that with the 3 pillars of intuitive eating, mindset overhaul, and Christ. I like to evolve Christ in all of this. And I work a lot with Christian women, Latter-day Saint women, and Christ is the major factor in it. And it really helps them find more purpose beyond their body. And it is such a fulfilling, rewarding thing to see women do that. So yeah.
I love that. I think that that's something so many women struggle with, even things I've struggled with. And I love the word that you said in there is food freedom. That stuck out to me a lot. So I'd love to touch on that in a minute. But since you're an intuitive eating coach, you talked a little bit about how you used to be a weight loss coach. Can you tell us how you got into intuitive eating, and is there a difference between those two? Maybe there isn't, but something tells me that there is. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Right. Well, intuitive eating, I didn't mention, has 10 principles. And so there's a lot to it. And I really feel like it's the only modality that I found 2 things: that it is in line with God. I was always looking for something that was really in line with God, that would be out of good books and resources out there. And I did find that it's a book by 2 nutritionists in California that found, they were about 30 years ago, they found that these patients kept coming to them with severe some mindsets that were really becoming a problem in their life. And they found that this diet mentality that's in our culture is really gets down to the core, and even could come to the point of eating disorders. And they founded this modality, found the 10 principles, and it includes hunger and fullness and satisfaction. But it's also is, I feel like, second, like I was going to say, it's a modality that incorporates body image and body love and acceptance, that I just feel like it's hard to really find that, but that's where I found it. And I used to have my own eating disorders, and I've had to come a long way of figuring that out. So it's been a really great modality. I'm really glad I found it. And I read the book actually 5 years ago, back when I was, I've always been very healthy. My husband is actually was a personal trainer on this side for a long time. So we would work out together. We loved it. He would kind of train me. That was kind of hard to do, to train your own spouse. Yes. I would kind of fight him back, but I've always been into health and fitness, and it's fun, but and I wasn't ready for it at the time. Until later on, I was really glad that I knew where to go to, and I really hit that diet rock bottom. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So you talked about the 10 principles. Can you expand on the program as a whole a little bit? Because I think people, you touched on it, but can you dive deeper into just a few of those principles? You don't have to hit them all on the head, but just a few of them so people can get a deeper understanding of what intuitive eating is. Because it's, to my understanding, it's not just, oh, we're just going to focus on making you thin. It's more of a, it's like a whole mental, emotional process too, right?
Right. Oh, definitely. If I were to make it simple, there's the short answer and long answer. Short answer is intuitive eating is how we ate as kids. Kids eat to live. They don't live to eat. And maybe people have heard that before, but when you look at it through that lens, we're born in a way that we know what we need and that we know what's going to keep us full. And when we are full in those cues, but as the long answer, it really is this modality that it incorporates rational thought and our emotions and instinct. So those three things. And thinking of it as a Venn diagram, I guess, to help visually for those of us that work that way, we have this inside intuition, and then this other bubble of the Venn diagram, the outside health values. But in the middle where they cross is really this authentic health that we help people find. And some of those principles are rejecting diet mentality is the very first one, going on into honoring your hunger, feeling your fullness, coping with your emotions without using food, going down the line. And then very end is actually gentle nutrition. So a lot of times a lot of the world functions in the way where we look at gentle nutrition first, or they look at nutrition first and then build from there. But we reverse it. And you have a steady foundation of really taking out all those ideals that you had in the past. It's nothing about weight loss. It is all about you finding your own authentic health. And we work really hard to uproot those mindsets.
I love that. I love that a lot of it comes back to the mindset and how you operated as a child. I love that. That struck a chord with me. I did think, though, I'm going to veer from the questions that I sent you beforehand for 1 second. When you said we go back to how we eat as children, we know what we need as a child. Like, we know to be full, we know how to regulate our bodies, and we usually don't overeat as a child. But how do you deal with someone who, it sounds easy to do that, but what do you do when you're like addicted to sugar and like you see the donuts and the treats and everything, and you just want to go crazy all the time? Like, how do you deal with that? Like, with those true food addictions, is there a place for that in the intuitive eating process?
Definitely. That's definitely part of it. And a lot of people will tell me that they are addicted to sugar. They can't trust themselves with food. They go all out with it when they finally get their hands on it. First thing I would start is to not say you're addicted to food. When you put that power of I am addicted to food, there's a lot of power in our words in that way. So we say, I am feeling like I need it a lot. And so the best thing is then secondly is to be curious on why you're doing that. And I talk about something called attunement, and really what is out of tune in your life so that you become in tune with yourself, because there's really no reason that your body wouldn't necessarily do that unless there is something that is needing attention and help. We're kind of getting our wiggles out just with the sugar because we're not letting our true needs be seen somewhere else, whether it is you are overly busy, or a lot of times for me in the past, I would binge because I didn't have enough nutrition in me. So I figure out that with my coaching, that's what they need. And last thing with, like you're saying, little children, to just touch on the aspect of the gospel in Christ, is that I found that with that scripture, that as we become little children, you shall inherit the kingdom of heaven. I feel like if we can literally take that, even with this aspect, because God even cares about our health, if we become his children, be humble and see food for how it is, to help us just have the nutrition we can to then take our bodies forward and do the things that we need as children do. They eat to just live, that we will be blessed, and God will help us figure that out.
I love that. That's what I was going to ask you next, is how does God fit into your program? Because I know that's a key part of your program, but I feel like you answered that beautifully right there. Is there a common thread that you've noticed most people struggle with on their health journey? And if so, what is that? And how would you deal with that as a coach?
Oh, yes, definitely. I'd say hands down, people are very interested in knowing how to cope with their emotions without using food. And of course, we I think it to say it all together that you're never going to cope with your emotions without using food is not a good, healthy mindset. That's dichotomous thinking, black and white. Sometimes it's okay. And when you actually let yourself know that it's okay, it kind of frees up the control on it and the squeeze we have on the food. But we know, okay, I can actually go eat those brownies tonight because I'm pretty stressed out. But to know in the long-term pattern that you're not going to do that. And that's where women, a lot of times we're pretty stressed a lot of times, and we can find healthier ways to cope. And that includes, of course, self-care, but it gets a little deeper than that. I like to talk something about self-actualization, really having your purpose. And I know that's where it's good for this podcast, that we can, that these women that are listening now, that they're in the right headspace, that they can know as they keep searching for their purpose, they're not going to want to turn to food so much. Food is wonderful, of course. But I want women to find more purpose beyond even food. And next, we haven't talked much about this idea of beyond their body and just finding the way that they look and that the acceptance that they need and need to be validated from others. That's not where we're at. This comes in the form of the beauty industry. This comes in the form of the whole diet culture I was talking about. And it's really interesting as your eyes are open to it, you can see more and more that you can cope with the emotion by seeing and validating yourself. If you're feeling invalidated, you can start with yourself. So there's a lot to it, but that was where I would start, is being in tune first. And then we can go into what they can do to make themselves more fulfilled.
I love that. I love that you're not just treating the diet symptom of your overweight. You're treating the person as a whole, the emotional side of them, the spiritual side of them, and the physical side of them, and the mental side. It's almost like you hit all those things on the head, so that when they do get fit and healthy, they're able to maintain that because they've taken care of themselves as a whole. Is kind of what it sounds like, which I absolutely love. Mm-hmm. So I sometimes, for me at least, starting the eating journey, starting to get healthy, it's especially hard for busy moms, it seems. A lot of women want to get fit and want to lose weight, but I have found at least that one of the struggles is finding the time to make healthy meals, finding the time to exercise. What advice would you give to a busy mom who's trying to start her fitness and health journey?
Oh, definitely. I'd say, well, let me say it in the form of a story real quick, just a little bit about my story. And sometimes you're forced to finally find that. And I know a lot of women might be there. Maybe they're starting to have some severe anxiety, depression, or a lot of times women start to have the autoimmune diseases. Things start to come out if we don't focus on it. So, and not to be in a fear base, but if you don't take care, it will come out at some point. For me, in that story, was I hit that diet rock bottom, of course. But even before that, I was severely depressed and suicidal, and I had to go to a rehab for a whole month away from my family in 2020. And once I came out of that, I realized, okay, now I'm not in survival mode. There was a lot of traumas and a lot of things with marriage and having to be at home for so long, and my husband working a lot. And I don't have family nearby. So all that, and I think a lot of us can understand there's a lot of suffering in life. But after I was out of survival mode, I realized I still had the eating disorders that I needed to take care of. So I went to an outpatient facility to help me. And I learned about intuitive eating again. I learned about the mental overhaul I'm talking about, where you're taking apart those seams, like a seam ripper that you use when you sew. You're breaking up with your past thoughts. And with women and helping them have that journey to fitness and health, wherever they're at, if they're doing pretty well and they just know they want to get better, that's coaching, of course, is you're in a good spot, but you want to get better. That is awesome. You want to get curious on your why. Of course, curiosity is always where you want to start. And I love that aspect on why you want to do that, and finding the way that's going to work for you. I believe that intuitive eating works for everyone. But to really take a look on maybe where your mind is on the diet culture. Are you doing this because you do want to lose the weight? What if you don't lose the weight is a good question I ask people. And would you still do it if you don't lose weight is a great question. And then if that's the case, they're probably doing it because they want to feel good. And that's where we want to be first. So that's my
absolutely. Amen. I cannot say that enough. I've had my own journey with that on health issues coming out because I've ignored what my body really needed. And then that manifested itself in other physical illness. And so I just think you're speaking so much truth in that we have to take care of ourselves as a whole. And look, are you going to try to get healthy on all levels? And even if you don't lose the weight, I love that question. So I want to shift gears for just 1 second and talk life balance for a second. So you're a coach running a business, you have kids, a husband, church responsibilities. How do you keep your faith strong and your family's faith strong while doing everything that you do? Do you have certain spiritual habits that you do? Can you talk about that for a little minute?
Great. What I have actually talked about recently, if anyone wants to go back in my story and my posts on Instagram, there's a reel I've done and I talk about balance. And this is the story. This is the aspect from Elder Bednar. And he talks about there's spinning plates, this analogy of acrobatic person doing spinning plates on poles. And our life is kind of like that. There are always these plates around that we have to go and give a good spin once we see it wobbling. And I've noticed that recently with certain aspects in my life. So he said, and I thought, hallelujah, this is correct, that he said there is no perfect balance. It's not possible, because at any point one plate is going to be wobblier than the other. So for balancing, I love to think of that idea of the small and simple things, basing scriptures. I have these few scriptures that I keep close to my heart that really, I feel like, help me. And that's one of them, knowing that you eat an elephant one bite at a time, you do small and simple things, and you reap what you sow, and you put in that work over time, and you go give whatever thing is the most wobbly the good spin. And that may look like today, you need to just take care of your throwing up kid. That was me a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Or you actually are feeling this push and need to do more collaborations with business. And that's sometimes kind of what I've been doing lately. Or a lot of people I've noticed even on the social media platform are actually taking a huge break in July. And I think that's great. So whatever it is for them, the next right thing, to focus on that. And that's been helpful for me.
I love that. I love the small and simple things. And sometimes you have to take a chunk of time to work on and spin one certain plate for a certain amount of time. I love that. So do you involve your kids or your family on any level in your goals and your dreams? And if so, how?
Yes, they're very great at letting me have my time. How I involve them, and also means as I'm doing the fun of going out and meeting people, I may just do a group date with other women that have their kids along. They come with us sometimes, or in other times they may see what I do and I come back. So for example, I went to a hula dance class recently. I wanted to do it for the fun. Plus it's also networking and I knew her, she's a coach. I knew there were going to be other coaches there. So I also just really wanted to have some fun, and it was really fun. And it's Jade Kahula. She does the hula dancing. I don't know if you've heard of her. And she does, she's here in Utah, and she's all about embracing the jiggle. So I knew, I'm like, I get you, girl. We're connected. We understand the same things. We talk about the body acceptance together. So I went to that and I learned to dance, a little dance. And when I came home, I was like, hey, I want to show them this dance, even though it looks kind of funny and that they have never seen me dance that way. But my little girls, I have two little girls, my oldest boy, they were just mesmerized. And afterwards, she came up to me and said, Mom, you're so brave. And it really melted my heart. And even my husband afterwards was like, I think I just fell in love with you again. It's like the girls love you and they look up to you, because I'm going out to do stuff. I can bring it back home and share with them. And I hope that they would do that with me as kids, that they go out and they come back and share, and we're always connected. That energy is still there. We have this really strong tie as they're out, but when we all come back together, we share and we're together.
I love that. I love that. And sometimes I love it too. I love that you painted the picture. Like, I went out and did this fun thing and your kids didn't come with you, but you brought it back home and shared with them. I love that. I've done that with some of the speeches I've given. I come home and I share that with my kids and share them what I'm teaching. And I love even just your kids don't always have to be physically with you, but you can always bring it back home too. So I love that you touched on that. One question that I'm asking every single mom that I interview on this podcast is, do you feel like you are able to put your faith in family first and still go after your dreams?
Absolutely. And that's what's so great is this is the gospel of yes, you can have both. Of course, he puts a lot on our shoulders and knowing how to figure it out. And he has led me and guided me. Of course, that analogy of the plates, he lets us figure that out of what we can do to balance it and have both. But I've been really grateful as I have, because it's helping me have the fire in my belly. A lot of times what I talk about is this fire in our belly. We need to go chase after that self-actualization, that thing that makes us feel alive and come alive. And I know you do that with speaking, as I've talked with you, and you feel alive doing that, and you have to honor that. And you took a long time before you finally honored it. And that's good that you have now. And same, it's because when we do that, it's in line with God's values. And I talk about it's in my 12-week program at the very last week, after they've gotten through all the messy work of intuitive eating and that overhaul with their mind and the body acceptance, that we're taking out all the old furniture, but we have to put the good furniture into our mind, or else the bad stuff is going to creep back in. And what you do is fill that with is usually, I feel like, two things is, and that of the fire of your belly is to involve people. It's usually always going to involve people. And secondly, which just really goes hand in hand with the first, it prepares for the second coming of Christ. And a lot of times that's how it works. We prepare for the second coming of Christ by involving people and loving them and bringing them closer to Christ in any small little way you can, big or small, and your own talent that you have and your strength that you have, that God meant for us to have a purpose. And it's going to be messy. It's going to be hard, but you find it along the way. I'm still trying to figure it out, still more and more every day. But just having that trust that God will help me along the way as I put forth my effort.
Yes, I love that. I love that you talked about it. Even preparing for the second coming of Christ begins with people. And I think when you love what you do, it naturally attracts people to you. And I just went to the National Speakers Association conference, and they said, find your vibe and you'll find your tribe. And so I think that when you are living true to who you are and you have your own vibe, like the hula girl and embracing the jiggle, I think that other people will be attracted to that. And you can begin to develop a relationship and lay that foundation of love, which could then lead to bringing people to Christ. So I absolutely love that you brought that up. If you could give one piece of advice to another mom going after her dreams, what would that be?
I would say keep God close. And I think that's a lot of what the prophet is saying right now. And even just with those that believe in Christ, he wants to be a part of it and to involve them, to get quiet sometimes and knowing what that is. It won't be a big answer. Sometimes you won't even find the answer necessarily, but it all will work out in the sense that if you keep him close, that it's that he's along there with you. And of course, people still have success without him, but do you want to know him? Because that's how relationships are, is to know someone and to be fully known. And so as you get to know him, he'll get to know you, and you kind of form it together. And that'll then go, as you've built that good foundation with God, with you may probably your spouse, your kids on different levels, your friends around you too, to be known and to know and be fully known, and to let yourself be known. That's what's hard. It's like a lot of us aren't letting our voice come out because we don't want to be fully known, because we're afraid of what people might see. But that's a lot of times that's what people want to see the most, is the real not necessarily we have to tell everyone air our dirty laundry, but it's just that we're craving that as a society, that connection. And I feel like a lot of people, we're all together, like being truly alone really is being a room full of people and people not really knowing you and you not really knowing them. So as we can break through with that and have that connection better, you involve God close to help strengthen you and give you that confidence along the way to do that.
Yeah, and let him guide your path.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Is there, looking back on your whole journey as an intuitive eating coach, as a mother, going after your goals, as you look back, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently?
Oh, that is a hard question, because that's like, oh, here's the ugly part. I did get into a space where I was a workaholic for sure. And I used it as a way to buffer. So as a good analogy, I like to use stories. Everyone has a hole in their heart, and that's okay. Actually, we're born with it. God made us that way. Or at least we came here to earth that way. Adam, the fall of Adam, but a lot of us will fill that hole, and it'll just and that could be in the form of course, eating a lot of sugar, form of scrolling, the form of people pleasing is a big one. Even for me, like I'm saying, the workaholism, throwing that into that hole, and it goes into a dark abyss. It never satiates the hole. So for me to tell that advice to that person is to really find the right thing that is going to fill that hole. And I can almost guarantee you that it's going to be Christ. And it's not just him himself, but what he stands for. And he stands for love. And so finding that love within yourself, love for others, and love then turns into forgiveness, turns into compassion. So as you maybe find if you're starting on this journey, really get clear on what it is to fill that heart for you. So you're not buffering. So you're really feeling satisfied, and definitely keep an eye open for what love is and how Christ is there.
Yeah, I love that. So on the flip side of looking back over your regrets, what good things have come to you and your family because you have pursued your goals?
I have a feeling of that we're being taken care of, and God will provide and figure out life with us as we keep trying. That's a blessing. It's hard to put a finger on what it exactly is, because I'm actually still in the midst of it as I'm saying it. That it's going to work out. That's a blessing. That there's some sense of peace, and that is a lot of why people come to me with coaching. And like you even mentioned, the thing that really stood out to you is freedom. And freedom is very close to peace. And so I feel like that is definitely what he has given me, some peace and freedom. And if it's taught me, even as I've been able to work with the handful of people, as I've been going through this past year, and I changed what I do about only over a year ago. And so it's still rolling along, but it's been a blessing that is also been for me. As I preach it, it keeps me clear of staying out of diet culture and mentality and not finding my value there. And so I think that would be helpful for them.
I'm glad that you're wrapping us up with the food freedom thought and that you touched on that. Can you just briefly touch on how you have had food freedom, or how some of your clients have experienced food freedom by working with you and taking the intuitive eating path?
Right. I'll use two client examples because they were very different, but of course the same. One gal, by world standards, being overweight and binging and not having what she felt like the trust or control around food. And then another woman over here, you would look at her and think she's the ideal. She wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning. And she was just very, what they call orthorexic, in the sense that she was so OCD with her food, and a unhealthy obsession with clean eating and a religious exercise. So I've had those two clients this past year, and they were both, it's a pendulum. They were both way too far on both of those meridians. she still needed some structure, but she still had all those mindset things that she was mentally restricting in her mind, that she would never get to have all the food that she really wanted because she would restrict it in her mind. She wasn't on a formal diet. And her over here being on formal diets, that she wasn't in a good place either. She constantly thought about food, and it took her energy and her time and her thoughts away from things that matter most. So what we do is we bring that down to the middle of the freedom of the letting go. As we let go, it does actually happen and work out. It's a Chinese finger trap kind of thing. The more we pull, the harder it is on us. But as we let go, and there's still some patterns and ways to help you, of course, with knowing what your cues are, specifically these logistics, and even making sure you satisfy yourself in certain foods that you may want and need. But definitely there's just those things in the mind that you have to let go and have the freedom, knowing that you can have the freedom and believe it. So it's a combination of the mind and the logistics that really help get to that freedom.
I love that. I love that. I love that this is truly healing the person as a whole. It really, really resonates with me. So my last question for you is, where can people find you, any of your services, and just connect with you or follow you if they'd like to do that?
Yes, I'd love you to come follow me on Instagram if you just want to do that first. I talk about things over there, I'm trying to make it simple and easy. I'm kind of a minimalist in a sense, try to one step at a time learn, because this is a big thing to learn. But I also have a podcast myself. It's the Latter-day Intuitive Eating Podcast, and I'm on there every week. And I have my 12-week signature course is what I do, is my Latter-day Intuitive Eating 12-week program. And it is coupled with my course that I do. So you're learning the material on your own, but we come together every week going through those problems. I did that on purpose so that we don't waste valuable time. We get to the problems that are going on and what you need help and coaching through. And but you can just buy that course standalone as well if you don't want to put more of that investment towards a coaching and a workbook. Even here it is. It's my 14-day workbook. If you want to just even do something for $20, it's about 19. Something if you want to dip your toe into it, it's a 14-day workbook to learn intuitive eating on your own. So those are.
Do you have a website where people can find that, and your Instagram handle? Can you tell us both of those things?
Yes, it's both just LaraCragun.com and at Lara Cragun, and it's LauraCragun.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lara. And that will also go out in Connie's newsletter, and we'll share it across both of our social medias so that people can make sure they remember how to spell that and how to find that. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today and share your knowledge with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.